Welcome, everybody, to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama. And for this episode, you are in for a treat because I am joined for the very first time by my good friends, Duck and Jess, who are here to be now part of our rotating co-host schedule. So we're super excited for their very first episode. We're going to be talking about all things Epcot Festivals. That was something that they felt like was a really fun topic. So we're going to be diving into that and giving you all the tips and tricks that we have for this episode. But before we jump into that, Duck, Jess, how are you guys doing today?
We're great.
We're doing great.
Yeah, very excited. Thanks for having us here. Very excited to be
Absolutely.
hanging at the hub.
I know. Yes, our first official hub episode. So if you missed that announcement, we did have a little shift here for our podcast going forward in 2025 that we're going to be doing similar content, but get some new faces in here. So our hub episodes are going to be where we welcome in those new faces, and that is what you have found that you're listening to today. So without further ado, I think we're going to jump to Epcot.
Absolutely.
My favorite place in the world.
One of our favorite topics.
Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
all right. So Epcot is a super exciting park. There's so much to do. And one of those things to do is festivals. There is seemingly almost always a festival, is what I hear people joke about all the time.
It's not really a joke.
No,
It's-
there really
it's
is almost
true.
always.
There is a slight, as we'll get into, no spoilers. We'll talk about some schedules. We'll talk about the available festivals. But I believe there's only 2 months without a festival.
Yes, I
That's
believe
nuts.
Yeah.
it is nuts.
Fondly known as Diet Epcot, if you ever hear that term. Diet Epcot is when there's no festival.
Yes.
So yeah, it can be kind of overwhelming with all the different festivals. There's all kinds of different food and drinks and attractions and things offered at these festivals. So, our goal today is to help give you some tips and tricks and things to consider next time you are planning an Epcot trip, especially during festival season, to kind of make the most of it and take advantage of it. So step one is choosing what festival you want to attend. So there are 4 different festivals that take place at Epcot throughout the year. There is Festival of the Arts, which runs from January through the end of February.
Affectionately known as iFarts, which we're going to giggle about. I'm like, Jess, going to
Get the laugh track ready.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just
Yeah.
going to throw that out there right now. Like, I am inside a 12-year-old boy, right? Like, I'm just going to cackle every time we say it. So just throwing that out there right ahead of
I mean,
time.
That's fair. And also fair to say this festival, and I'm sure we'll talk about this too, it's just so short.
It
It is. It really is.
Ugh.
So we start off the year with a very short iFarts festival. And then our second festival of the year is the Flower and Garden Festival, which goes from the second week in March all the way through June. And then there is a couple-month break and where we have Diet Epcot. And then we have Food and Wine Festival, which runs from August through late November. And then after Food and Wine, then we have Festival of the Holidays, which goes from November through the end of December. And that kind of finishes out the year. So there are some pretty consistent components to all of the festivals. So the theme surrounding them is really what varies. So they all have, special food and drinks. There's different concert series and events. There's different themed photo opportunities, scavenger hunts, and prizes that you can win. Different like passport stamp hunts where you can, go through all the food booths and try different things and, get a prize that way as well. So we will start off talking about Festival of the Arts.
Again, iFarts. Which, by the way, the I comes from international, just to be clear, because for a long time, everyone always calls it Festival of the Arts. So I was like, where does the iFarts come in? Like, is that just a joke that everyone... Yeah, it's just a joke that everyone's... Like, I feel like I'm missing context, but it is technically International Festival of the Arts. Yeah, so that's where the iFarts comes in.
And I think technically all of these are the international festival, like International Festival of the Arts, International Flower and Garden Festival, I believe, which don't know why, because
I think it has to do with because most of these are hosted in World Showcase.
makes sense.
And because what they are showing off is different things, again, like themed around whatever the festival theme may be, the international version of that, right? We talk about it a little bit more as we go through some of the details, especially for the scavenger hunts, but things are themed to the countries in the showcase or the booth or the area. So
Right.
I think that's where the international comes from, and that remains true for all of them. I think
Totally.
when people think of like international things or international things to do with Epcot, they really think of food and wine, but that remains true for all of the festivals.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. See, you're so smart. Look at you.
That's what I'm here for, the Epcot knowledge.
Love it. Okay, so what do you have for us about Festival of the Arts?
All right, so up first, Festival of the Arts. So, like Jess said, there are a few things that are consistent with every festival. One of those things is the concert series. So Festival of the Arts, you might think that it's just to do with like the visual arts or painting. And that is a big component of it, right? It is very themed to the visual arts in that there's a lot of like paintings and drawings and activities themed around that, but it is also around other arts like singing. So what will be there throughout Festival of the Arts is a Disney on Broadway showcase. So whatever Disney on Broadway shows there may be, Aladdin, for example, there will be a showcase in the festival's concert pavilion of those different artists singing the songs from those Broadway plays.
Yeah, and I think some of these performances have been some of the like underdog ones, right? They're ones that you don't always expect to be like knock your socks off, but they're incredible. So these all take place in the America Pavilion in the American part of World Showcase. And it's people who have either recently left Broadway or were like in a touring cast on Broadway, lots of different names. So they may be names that you're not familiar with, but you're always going to be in for a good show because they are Broadway level performers. And
Yeah, this isn't just Joe Schmo that they get
Right.
off the street. These are actual Broadway. These are like actual real deal singers, right? This isn't someone that they just like, a high school music teacher that they just shoved some sheet music out and said, "Get up here." As fun as that could be,
Right.
but no, these are like you said, real deal Broadway actors
Yeah.
performing these songs from the various Broadway musicals. And as you said, this is a really great opportunity to see this Broadway level entertainment. I know more than one person who saw a Broadway song performed here from, whatever show it may be, and then actually went to go see the show on Broadway because they were so impressed and enjoyed the music from it so much. So it is a really great opportunity. If maybe a Broadway trip isn't in your budget after a Disney trip,
Right.
it is a good way to get some exposure to that Broadway level entertainment.
Right. And all included with your price of admission to the park, which is a
Yeah.
very cool opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about those concert series is that it's if you're there, you can go. Like, granted, some lines are long, and we can talk about kind of what that is like in a little bit, but it's all included. All of these concerts that we talk about at all the different festivals are all included. All of the food booths that we talk about are all included. Like, it's great. It's so wonderful.
Now we have the Paint by Numbers mural up next that I wanted to talk about. So this is, if you're on social media, you 100% have seen this. This is, I think, one of the coolest things because I always love little like community projects like this. But every year for Festival of the Arts, they will put up a large mural, and it's a Paint by Numbers mural. And everybody, if you were at the park, you can go up and paint a couple of squares, and everybody works together and makes this really cool. Usually it's like a Figment themed photo because Figment is the festival mascot. But you make this really cool, really beautiful painting all together. And I just love little community activities like this. I wish that Disney did more of them.
Right.
Excuse me. But I think that's just like a really fun, unique activity that, like we said before, is included with everything.
Yeah, that's like the one thing from Festival of the Arts that I'm like, I really want to do that. I haven't been to Festival of the Arts yet, but like that's the one thing that I'm like, I want to go paint the mural.
I want to participate in Figgy's painting.
I know. Well, and they usually have about 4 that they plan to complete during the festival cycle. And this year, for the first time I saw, they actually posted on, I think it was on like the Disney Parks blog, the official Disney Parks blog, that they posted all 4 of what they were going to be doing this year for the first time, which I had never seen them post before. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You get like a little sneak preview of what you get to paint. So
yeah, I find that's actually interesting because like previous years they absolutely haven't. What I have seen them do in previous years is post the first one or like post pieces of them, right? Like, can you figure out what this mural's gonna be at the end? Like, and slowly reveal it. So it's interesting that they did all of them in one shot. I wonder why.
who knows, right? Who knows why Disney does what they do, right? But I do have the question in my chat over here on our live chat is, where can we find the Paint by Mural mural? Or paint by number mural. I said that wrong. You know what I mean.
That mural thing that you participate.
Yeah, that's it.
So I actually have seen it end up in different locations. The where it was I don't know if it was last year or the year before, was that long pathway that leads you from the front of the park to when you're walking towards World Showcase. If you've been to other festivals, there's usually some sort of photo op or something right there. I have seen it be there. There were some traffic problems with it in previous years, so it is possible that they may relocate it for this year. But that will be outlined. Usually they'll put it on the festival map as its own like point of interest. So if you're planning on going to Festival of the Arts, it's pretty easy to locate it.
Yeah, so that would be what we technically call like port of entry to World Showcase, is where Duck is talking about. But I am getting a comment here from Christina in my chat that says it's actually over by Figment this year. So it sounds like they must have relocated that for me, probably for traffic purposes, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's good. First off, very thematic, but also that over by the Imagination Pavilion has a ton of space. So I'm actually really happy to hear that they relocated it. I think that's a good spot for it. And it gets more people over by Figment to ride Journey into Imagination.
yes. Yeah. So and all of that will be highlighted on your map. So we're talking currently about the 2025 festival, right? But if you're listening to this in the future, hello, welcome. Definitely check your park map to make sure where that's going to be located. You should be able to find it in your My Disney Experience app. You should be able to find it on your like festival park map, or just ask a cast member if you're like, hey, I'm trying to find this. Where is it? They will be able to direct you.
Yes. Very kindly and with 2 fingers pointing.
We love cast members.
Oh, they're the best. That actually is a really good point to bring up. I might as well bring it up now. The festival passports. So for every festival, you can get these little booklets. They call them passports. And that will have all of the information that you'll need for that festival. You can usually pick them up at like the port of entry. There'll be usually sometimes they're in the gift shops. They will usually have them all over the place. They're even up in the front of the park, like by Spaceship Earth, and they'll have them everywhere when there's a festival going on. And it's a good idea to pick them up, just to have to reference. That way, if you don't want to pull out your phone all the time and you're like, I thought it was this way, maybe it's like 2 feet that way and I'm just missing something. They will have all pieces of information that you'll need to know, maps, booth listings, artists for something like Festival of the Arts. That will all be contained within the passport.
Yeah, super helpful to have. And they do typically include that on your phone as well. And you can find it on the like the website before you go and all that good stuff. So
Absolutely. But if you're like me, it's helpful to have like a physical object. And sometimes when we go, I'll usually have a pen with me. And so like if there's some planning that I wanted to do, or maybe we changed plans, right?
Right.
I'll just, note it down in the little notebook. So if you like me, like pen and paper, because I'm 1,000 years old inside.
Listen.
I have a full collection of fountain pens, all right? I am a 90-year-old man inside. It is what it is.
I love it. Okay, so we talked about Disney on Broadway. We talked about the Paint by Numbers mural. What else can we expect for Festival of the Arts?
So for Festival of the Arts, of course, the arts is the big draw. And so along with that, we will have artists who have done collabs with Disney. They'll be there. They'll be selling their work. You can meet them. You can have them sign prints. And there are occasions where they will be selling exclusive festival prints, right? So art that they made specifically for this festival and is unlikely to be sold elsewhere. Occasionally, if they have some extras, hint, hint, wink, wink, check their websites. But so if you see something you really love and you maybe missed out on it because they happen to not be there, because the artists do rotate through the festival, I think is something that's important for me to bring up. So most artists will be there for like between 3 to 5 days, and then they'll cycle out. So if maybe there's an artist that you're really looking forward to, that you really enjoy, it's a good idea to check A, if they'll be there, and B, when they will be there. And if possible, right, if this is the main goal of your trip, then you can plan it around that. But if not, there's always many amazing artists that you'll just encounter walking through the festival for sure.
Yeah, and it can be a little tricky to figure out when they're gonna be there. Disney doesn't do a really great job of publicizing that necessarily. Sometimes you can find it in the, like, festival passport guides, so, like, if you see, like, some of these websites like Chip& and Co. or Disney Food Blog will post that, like, as soon as the festival starts, they'll post, like, snapshots of every page. That's probably your best bet of where to start to look for artists, but from there, I would honestly look at the specific artists, like website, social media, schedule, those types of things to get a better idea.
Yeah, we have this a little bit later, but since you're bringing it up, we'll discuss it now too. Spoiler, Jackie. No,
Sorry, I got excited.
how dare you give good advice? No, but that's actually the what we found. So we haven't been to Festival of the Arts, but we do comic conventions, and especially New York Comic Con. And so, we will check social media, we will check hashtags. If there's an artist that you like, that you know that they've done collabs with Disney, like Karen Hallian has done a lot of Star Wars art. So if there's an artist that you know that you like, just keep an eye on their social media, because there are times where later in the festival, they may be able to make an appearance, or, something that may be updated. That the easiest way to get that info is by checking social media, the artist specific social media, and also going down the rabbit hole of, like, a hashtag, or a lot of artists also, on various, I know they do it on Instagram, and they'll do it on X, formerly Twitter. They'll put whatever festival or convention in this case in their username. So if you just search, iFarts or a Festival of the Arts or whatever, they'll have it. So then they'll come up in the search, right? That's also an easy way to see.
I really hope that they put iFarts because
Oh,
that would make me
they totally have. They totally have. I've absolutely seen it before.
I love that. It's the little, niche of calling it that is slowly spreading throughout
Absolutely.
everybody involved.
Well, listen, it's SEO, right? They got to get to the top of the search. They have to go with the catchiest thing and what people will be searching. Hashtag iFarts is very common to search when it comes to Festival of the Arts. So they know how to get searched for,
Fair. That's fair.
Oh, and just while we're talking still about artists and things like that, another thing that they'll do during Festival of the Arts is this Animation Academy. So it is included with the ticket. It's a free activity. And they will have a featured artist. Usually it's an artist that has worked on a Disney movie. Occasionally they've had, like, animation legends host these events before. And basically it's learn how to draw your favorite Disney character, right? They'll usually share some stories about their time in animation, and it's really a lot of fun. It's geared towards all ages, but it's a very kid-friendly activity.
Yeah, and it's very similar if you're familiar with the one that they do at either the Art of Animation Resort or out at what is that technically? Rafiki's Planet Watch at Animal Kingdom. Similar feel. I will mention though that this particular one, like the one at Animal Kingdom, you can get like coloring pages for your littles. This one doesn't tend to always have that just because it is something festival specific. It takes place in that America Pavilion again, like we talked about with the Broadway series. I was like, thank you. I was like, what was I talking about?
The singing people, yes.
This is the people that come and sing and entertain you. So that is something to keep in mind. And the artists, while it's amazing and fabulous, they go a little quicker than the typical cast members do. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah, no, that's so
And it's
valid.
so fun. It's so fun still. But just if you're used to kind of a slower pace, they don't go some of them don't go quite as slow as the other ones do.
Again, because it kind of depends on who it is, right? They may be used to teaching a junior animator rather than a regular person. So it's still fun no matter what. It's still a really cool experience. It's still fun because you get to, bring a drawing that you did with a Disney animator home. But you're right. That is a fair warning, is that it's a little snappy.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
So Jess mentioned before that scavenger hunts or some sort of search around Epcot activity is common between all of the festivals. So for Festival of the Arts, of course, because Figment is the mascot there, it is a Figment themed activity. So this year it's called Figment's Brush with the Masters, which is adorable. And like we said earlier, where the activities are themed because it's international. The activities are themed to the different countries in World Showcase. So no spoilers, but the themes of the paintings that you are searching around Epcot for that have been figmentified are all themed to whatever that pavilion may be where you can find him.
I love that. I love the scavenger hunts are probably my favorite part of all of these festivals. They're just so cute. Like
Firmly
it's just
agree.
and the greatest thing about this one, again, no spoilers, but so some of the other ones are just more like you're looking for a character.
Yeah.
This one is a lot more in depth, which I love, and it's so much fun. And it's probably the hardest of all of the scavenger hunts from all of the festivals
Yes.
because it's not just a little character statue that you're looking for.
Yeah, this one, and I will say this one is more themed, right?
Mhm.
Like it's really like very much leaning into that arts theme. Whereas some of the other ones, like you said, like we'll bring it up a little early. The one in Food and Wine is Remy's Hide and Squeak, which is I have to tell you
super cute.
a great name, and it's a very fun activity.
But it's just Remy with like a food item.
Yeah.
Is what you're looking for, the little statue. So it's not, this is, definitely something that's a lot more fun, I think, and a lot more like immersive.
Immersive. That's a good word for it.
Yes. And if you do want to do the scavenger hunt, you can do it unofficially, right? There are pictures of the guides and the maps and stuff all over the interwebs. So if you want to do it unofficially, you have that option. But if you want to officially get the little, their map looks like a little palette, and then they have little stickers that you get to like place as you find them. Usually runs you $9.99, but AP and DVC discounts apply. There's a couple different places around the park that you can typically get them, usually inside of Creations and then at Port of Entry. And I think there's a place over near, is it the gift shop outside of the Skyliner entrance that I can't think of the name to it right now.
The one, yep, the Skyliner, the mini one, yep. It
I
is
was like, why can my brain not think about
International
it?
Gateway. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
Okay.
An International Gateway.
Yes. Thank you. So if you do pay for it, you then are eligible to get the prize, whether you complete it or not. And this year it is a set of stencils. So it's been in the past, it's been like little like figurines that you can paint. It's usually a themed little prize for the end. Hint for if you've got children and you're not sure if you'll actually finish it, you can pick up your prize when you buy the map. Just ask.
That is a good pro tip that I did not know.
Yeah. Because if you're like, I've been in the parks where I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this with my kids. My kids are pretty good about scavenger hunts. Like they're very determined once they get them in their hands to put all the stickers where they need to go.
Same.
Right, exactly. But if you've got a kiddo where you're like, oh, they may flake out on me and we may not finish this, just pick it up when you get it, because they will close the redemption, the ability to redeem that at park close. So like if you don't finish it before 9 p.m.
Sorry.
Exactly. And if you're not going back to Epcot, that's really sad. So get your prize.
Yeah.
You paid for it.
You want
That's
your
why you paid the $10 is for your prize.
Yeah. The stickers are cool and all, but
Right.
the prize is really where it's at.
Yeah. And regardless of getting the prize before or after, like it's still fun to walk around and do the scavenger hunt itself. So it's not like you're ruining any of the fun.
Yeah.
Get ahead of
Yeah.
time. But
You are pre-planning.
working
Exactly.
smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Yes. So that's
Um,
my little spiel about the scavenger hunts because I love them.
Yeah, they're so fun. We do them every time that we're there and there's a festival going on. We love them. They're really fun. It's also a good way to like as you're maybe between booths or you're taking a break, like it's a fun activity to pass the time without being too labor intensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
and
really good
that's-
if you have kids too.
That's what I was going to say. It's good if you've got kids that are like, what are we doing here? Why are we going through all the countries? Here, child, have a sticker sheet.
That's my cousin. We went a couple years ago with my cousins, and it was Food and Wine, and us and their mom wanted to eat and drink around the world. They were obviously had no interest in it, but we're like, here's a scavenger hunt, and now you have a fun game to play while we eat and drink it.
Those kids were locked in.
Yep. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But on the topic of eating and drinking around the world and also scavenger hunts, there is also usually I'm not going to say every single time because I have seen festivals where it has been skipped, usually around COVID, but now that we're sort of moving further away, they have returned, is the passport stamp hunt. So there's usually a themed set of food items. Oh my God, cowboy.
That's incredible.
Pew pew. Howdy, partner. But there is a themed set of different foods that you can eat. And when you purchase those foods from the different booths, you can get your passport stamped, right? That little booklet with the map and the information. You can get those stamped. And once you have completed whatever it is, 4, 5, 6 of those stamps, you can bring it to, I believe it's the same places that you can redeem the prizes for the scavenger hunt. Definitely Port of Entry, because that's where we've always gone. And there may be other locations, and you can redeem them for a secondary prize, right? Or something different. Usually it's something edible. It is something in the same vein as maybe what you were eating. But
Yeah.
I have seen other times where it's been like a cup or something like that.
Yeah, and it will always tell you where to go to redeem it too. I should mention that for all of the scavenger hunts and things that we're talking about in that passport booklet, will always say where you can go to redeem it. It's just a matter of then you got to find that on the map.
And also mapping your route, right? Because maybe if you're at like one of the Skyliner resorts, you can just hit that one on the way out. But if you're not going that direction and you're kind of on the other side of World Showcase, maybe that's not where you want to plan to redeem it, you know? So
And
just good
again,
information to have.
those redemption points will close at park close. So make sure if you are wanting to get through, it's usually 5 items and then you get the completion after you get 5.
Yes.
So make sure that you plan accordingly for that.
Or if you really want a challenge, just eat all of them for funsies.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you happy. I have seen more than one person just go for it.
I suggest maybe you get 2 books then, because I feel like you deserve every 5. You should get the completer item at that point. So like pick up an extra book or 2.
If you're gonna do it, go all the way. Really get rewarded.
Exactly. Come on, you're spending all that money. You got to get the free thing too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and before I forget, I love the names. I think they're a lot of fun. So like I really like the Figments brush with the Masters. This one, the passport stamp hunt for Festival of the Arts, is a wonderful walk of colorful cuisine.
Bit of a mouthful, but it's still a fun name.
It's such a fancy name. I think that is, the gist of Festival of the Arts. So yeah, let's talk about Flower and Garden.
All right. So the next festival is Flower and Garden. So this one is all things plants and springtime and all of that wonderful stuff. So there are all kinds of topiaries around the parks in the different pavilions. So there are, actual like living plants that are sculpted into different Disney characters and things like that. So you can walk around the park and view all of them. And then there are it's really focused a lot on like the educational aspect of Epcot. So there are things like the University of Florida's Master Gardeners that have a booth set up there. Different like sustainability groups run the different stations and stuff. So educating you on different, plants and gardening and different things like that. Another big draw is there's a butterfly garden walkthrough. So that is a lot of fun, and I can especially see it being fun with kiddos to kind of run through and see all the different butterflies.
My favorite part. But it was so fun because the last time I went to Flower and Garden, my oldest was like reading and like had also learned about like caterpillars and like the whole like cycle and everything. And it walks you through that, right? So as you kind of take the U-shaped pathway in there, if you're looking at the signage, it walks you through like the life cycle of the butterfly. And he just thought that was the coolest thing. And he like ran around and was like reading signs to his sister and telling us all about it. Like it was so cool. He didn't want the butterflies to touch him, but he was very excited that they were flying around above his head.
Extremely fair. And I really like Flower and Garden personally because, like you were saying, it's you learn stuff, right?
So you're like tricking the kids into learning.
Oh, you make it fun,
Exactly.
and they will learn.
Exactly. So yeah, I love the butterfly garden walkthrough. It's one of my favorite things about. And I've been to Flower and Garden several times. And it's every year I'm like, let's go to the butterfly garden. It's so cool.
And where was it the last time you went? Because I know this too also was moved, especially with some construction and to keep the butterflies happy. The loud noises and things can be upsetting to animals. So I know that they had moved it previously.
Oh gosh, you're testing my brain here. Stevie's saying in the chat over here that it used to be in front of Figment, like on the Waiter World Showcase, which sounds very similar to where they moved the paint by number mural that we were just talking about. So it maybe is in that location again.
That would make
Uh,
sense.
Hmm.
Maybe that's
but-
where they're just going to put like the high
Stuff like that,
traffic
right?
attractions now. I think that would make sense because there's
a good area.
so much room over there.
Right. Underutilized room over there, quite frankly. So yeah, if they can put some stuff over there. But again, yes, check your map because
The map will tell you.
it could move on you. But either way, it's definitely like, even if you're like, oh, it sounds okay, like just go walk through it. It's so pretty in there.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this later, but I really think that even if it's something that you're not sure that you're super interested in, maybe make time to give it a shot, right?
Mhm.
You can always immediately nope right out and turn right back around and get out of it. If you decide you don't want those caterpillars within 50 feet of you, you can just back right out.
Right.
But I have found, just in my experience of talking to people about these various festivals, is that people miss a lot of great things because they focus on whatever their particular interest is, right? Usually it's the food booths, which, like, so valid. I also am focused on food, right? Like, that's a completely fair thing. But there's so many activities, and year after year, these festivals are just getting better. I feel they're introducing more things. They are learning, especially now that we're a little bit more removed from COVID. A lot of the restrictions that people felt were, damaging to the festivals and maybe the setups of the festivals, that's slowly returning. So I really hate to hear that people missed the very fun variety of activities because they were very laser focused on whatever their one interest was.
Yeah.
Which is totally understandable, but
100%.
just take a moment, just peruse the entire list from the festival.
Just do a flip through, scroll through the socials, and see what the hubbub is, see what the buzz is. Don't just zero in, right? I hate that people miss fun things,
Right.
And I get it. I get laser focused too, but just keep an open mind with festivals.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So the concert series for Flower and Garden is the Garden Rocks concert series. So some artists for this year have already started being announced. So Blue October is going to be one of them, Rick Springfield, and there are going to be like 38 other announcements.
Blue October, just like
It's like a blast from the past. I like the bands. in there.
2006 just smacked me in the face. That's a crazy throwback.
Yeah. What were they? They were what? Hate me today.
That uplifting song, take me.
Yeah.
I was blasting that at 13 as if
As if I had added connections to that.
like as if I truly understand any of what's being said, that this adult man is screaming at me 100%.
I'm pretty sure I had that entire album.
Absolutely. It was an excellent album.
Yes. So anyway, yes, definitely check that out because the thing that always gets me about all of these concert series is just the vast variety of artists that they get for them. So it's always fun to be like, ooh, who are they going to get? Who's returning from last year to this year? I'm waiting to see towards the end of the festival who they announced because my trip, I think I'm going to catch the tail end of Flower and Garden this year. So I'm like, oh, who's going to be around and will it be worth it to go? Because I typically steer clear because it can be very crowded over there when the concerts are going on. But if I can, walk by and listen to half a song, then we'll be good.
Just a snippet.
Exactly.
And not to plug our socials or anything, but keep an eye out because Jackie will be reporting live from Epcot.
Probably not. But anyway, we can pretend.
In my heart, you'll be reporting live from Epcot.
Maybe. We'll see. It depends on how busy it is, in all honesty, but, we'll see.
So valid.
Yes. Okay, so we talked about concerts. Let's talk about the different scavenger hunts for this one because they have different themed scavenger hunts.
There are, yes. So the scavenger hunt for Flower and Garden is Spike the Bee's Pollination Exploration. So Spike the Bee is one of the mascots for the Flower and Garden Festival. Usually him and Orange Bird are kind of the two. Duck has the spirit jersey. So they're usually the two mascots for the festival. So this features Spike pollinating different plants all around the World Showcase. So you get to go around and, search for Spike. And then the other one that they sometimes have is the egg extravaganza scavenger hunt, which is usually kind of in the weeks leading up to Easter. And so you're finding just different, Easter eggs themed to different characters.
They're
from
so
the
cute.
parks. And then the
They're
private
I love
are
the
usually
Easter eggs.
like little Easter egg themed things as well. For that one, I'm not sure what the the different like plants, like the seeds and stuff, is the prize
for
the
Spike?
pollination.
Yeah, they've
Exploration.
done that before. They've also had, I think it was for the Easter one, they've had like cups.
Mhm.
They've had little like containers, like little like plastic type containers with characters on them. So it really varies year to year with what they
Mhm.
have.
I have heard there has been tell that they might be getting away for the pollination exploration, getting away from the wildflower seed packets, which have been the prizes in the past, because it's actually like an ecology concern because wildflowers are not the same everywhere, and you have to be very careful with what you're planting, where you're planting it, lest you end up with an accidental invasive species.
Yeah.
So there has been some feedback that I have heard they may be receptive to, so you may get a slightly different prize going forward. I don't know if that's true for this year or for next year, or if they're going to change it at all, but I have heard some whispers that they may be reconsidering the prizes for the pollination exploration.
Sounds like it would be a good idea.
Yeah, totally valid. And it changes year to year, right? So, what people got last year for the scavenger hunts is not necessarily what you're going to get this year. So they typically don't announce the scavenger hunt prizes until the first day of the festival, and everyone goes, "What's the prize this year?" So, surprise, if you go on day one, it'll be a surprise to you and everyone else.
Yes. I love surprises. Hooray.
I know, it's good. Okay, I think that's the gist of Flow Grow, Flower and Garden, right? So shall we move on to food and wine?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. I think, is Food and Wine the only one? No, I guess Festival of the Holidays doesn't have a nickname. I was trying to think of a fun nickname very quickly for Food and Wine, and it just fell apart in my hand.
Nope.
So we're just gonna speed right on back that. But yeah, so Food and Wine, as the name would imply, is very focused on food and wine.
What?
This is
No
I know
way.
y'all can take a second. We might need to lay down with this revelation.
I'm shocked.
Shocked. Well, not that shocked. But so of course, because this is focused on the food and the wine, it has the most booths for you to purchase said food and wine. It is also, in my opinion, the most spread out of all the festivals, right? Because there are so many booths, they will just shove them in every corner of Epcot. It's crazy the amount that they can fit in there, because you'd think World Showcase seems big when you're walking it, but when you really think about where is logistically practical for them to put a booth, there's just not that many places, right? Because you have to think about traffic flow, and you don't want any choke points and anybody, possibly getting hurt or anything like that. Especially if there's like wheelchair access needed to a certain area, you can't block access to things. So, yeah, so they really spread it out. There's a lot around that first, I'm going to say, whether you go right or left to Canada or to Mexico.
We are not debating. We are not debating.
Please.
We're not
it's okay.
going there.
I'm remaining Switzerland on this stance. As long as you're in Epcot, you've made the right choice. That's what matters to me.
Totally valid. Love that. I love that answer.
That is my very neutral stance. If you're in Epcot, you've already made the correct series of choices. Anything after that is just pie, right? Perhaps literally if you're stopping at a booth.
You never know.
But they're largely stacked right there, right?
Yeah.
There's always a lot because there just happens to be a lot of room. But it also does extend back towards, the front of the park. Like there was a booth right in front of Guardians last year. Actually, 2 or 3 booths right by Guardians.
Yeah, there's always ones there. There's always ones outside of Test Track. Test Track's being refurbed right now, but there's always at least 1 or 2 outside of Test Track. They tend to keep them more on that side as you enter. What is that? World Exploration is the new name of that side, I think.
sounds true.
And World Nature tends to get more of the like we were talking about, that's the side that's gonna be like your Figment and the Land Pavilion and the Seas and that. They tend to get more of the, like, activity, quote, unquote, stuff like we talked about, the mural and the butterfly garden.
Yeah, which I think is fair because I don't think that you want your critters and your
Your
plants
food mixing.
right near where you may be eating said critters. So like very valid to keep them like you're thinking about Guardians of the Galaxy and driving a car, right? Like your spaceship, your car, you can think about chicken fingers. I don't think you can be on the land and then eat a salad, right? Like I'm just not sure. Thinking about maybe the seas and some sort of food might be a more apt connection, but either
I also
way.
don't love the idea of
but
I I also don't love the idea of, like, thinking about going to a food booth and then immediately getting on Guardians. Maybe don't do that. Maybe wait.
after.
Or just do Guardians first. Just
Mhm.
same with Test Track if you have a weak stomach, it goes kind of fast. Well, we're assuming that it's gonna be similar to what it was previously when it reopens eventually, but,
Could never find out.
you know,
Notice we got stuck on there once and I am never going back. No thank you.
but it'll be new.
That's nice. No thank you. New things break a lot. No thank you.
Yep. Yep. So
Nothing
anyway,
personal. I love Test Track, and if you love Test Track, I love that for you. I don't love Test Track, so catch me at the fry basket. Go ahead and load up on them delicious treats while you're riding Test Track. No thank you.
that's fair. The fry basket booth does have a lot of really good food.
One of the best.
It's
Yes.
delicious.
Okay, so aside from the booths,
Sidebar to the sidebar to the sidebar.
what
So-
else can we find at Food and Wine, Doc?
Now, of course, like I said before, for Festival of the Arts, there was some sort of artists could be selling their prints and things like that. Previously, pre-pandemic, there used to be chefs that would come in and do live demos. Now, there's no word one way or the other whether this will ever return. I hope, I'm with you where I hope it will. Because that was we did not ever get to experience that when it was around. But it is, as a human who loves to cook, that would totally be the highlight of my festival. So I really do hope that they bring that back. I had heard some rumors about it last year. It just wouldn't work. I'm hopeful in the future as these festivals continue to get stronger. And are in an upswing. I really want it back.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
I experienced it once.
Who did you see?
Back when Stevie was still a cast member and I went down to see her for like a quick weekend. We went to Food and Wine and we walked by because they used to use what is that building called that's between it's the pavilion, the like pavilion and event space that's back behind by where the popcorn cart is that has the caramel or not the maple popcorn.
Oh,
right
yes.
between. So I guess that would be between Canada and the UK.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like where like Canada Farm Y. I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yep.
So that walkway, but like on the other side of Canada. So that walkway led to, and that whatever that event space is called, that I'm really bad with these names tonight. I swear I know what I'm talking about, you guys.
You gave the general direction. And again,
Right.
if you want to see it, you can look on a map. I mean, not currently because it's not offered, but a previous map.
Right. So they don't use that for like the event space anymore, but inside of there was where like a bunch of the merch was and where they had like several different staging points for these different chefs that would come in. But that was where like all the merchandise and stuff was too. They didn't have, that was back in the days of Mouse Gear. And they didn't like Mouse Gear didn't hold, that was the main shop. They didn't hold any of the event stuff there. It was all in World Showcase. And then I know too that there were several Food Network shows that used to film episodes at the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot too.
Yeah, it was always a special for a bunch of different,
Yeah.
like a celebrity chef might. I'm pretty sure Guy Fieri did one, right? Like it was always like it was the special episode of the end of the summer.
Exactly.
So it's a shame that is not something that they have brought back, but I remain hopeful that my celebrity chefs may reappear one day.
Yeah, I'm concerned that they've let that event space go for too long, and then
Mhm.
to then go in and get it ready to do that again is going to be too hard.
Yeah.
But maybe Disney, if you're listening, we love you. Hi, can you bring back the chefs, please?
Pretty please.
Pretty please. We'll come. We'll spend money at your park if you do it.
So popular if they bought it back.
Yeah.
I will spend so much money if you bring back those chefs. Like, it would be really fun. It was really enjoyable then. I was like the specials, like you said. Just watching them. I was a big Food Network person growing up, and there are spaces that I'm sure are underutilized in other pavilions.
Right.
They can certainly
They could find a place.
clear out a storage closet and make it work. It's fine.
Right. Well, and they've got like virtual queue systems now. So if
We're not losing the Muppets. How dare you? How dare you? Do not even suggest using the brewing lab.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to have a visceral reaction. Continue.
I don't even know what I was saying now. I got so derailed listening to you yell at Jess about some Muppets.
There's something
Very passionate about the Muppets.
There's something here.
within me that snaps as a suggestion of losing more Muppet things, you know? I just...
Not our parents are fighting.
Oh, what I was saying though is if they're worried about like crowds and things like that, they have the ability to use virtual queues to limit the space inside of those. Because that was something before, right? Like capacity and fire codes are a thing. You can't have these big names coming and not have a system in place. Use a virtual queue. Use some sort of a ticketing system. Exactly.
We have
It would-
technology, guys.
Yes.
We can do it.
You can do it. You can do it. Come on. But we digress. Okay, continuing on.
Again, returning back for my... I blacked out there when the Muppets were mentioned. So like we've been saying the whole time, right? A couple things are consistent. The concert here is called Eat to the Beat. And that has many bands that if you were growing up in like the late 90s, early 2000s, this concert series is your jam. I think this is the most popular concert series that people attend. Like, I know I have heard regularly on every time that we've been to Food and Wine, people are like say that we have specifically traveled here to catch this concert.
Right.
So in the past, there's been bands like The Fray, Yellow Card, which again, like 2007, just smacking it out really old and in.
Okay, sorry.
You've seen sidebar here. We've seen Yellow Card in concert. I don't know, like 8 times, 9 times. We've seen them many times. But yeah, so Hoobastank, Mercy Me, Joey Fatone, We the Kings, Hanson. Boys to Men was a huge draw last year. There were people talking about they were there for like a couple days before we were there, and there were people afterwards. And it was like Boys to Men concert shirts everywhere. It was great to see. Everyone was there for Boys to Men. 98 Degrees, Smash Mouth.
They're coming and they don't stop coming.
They don't stop coming. Switchfoot has played before. So like you said earlier, there's such a variety of bands.
Yeah.
Although this tends to be the target audience of late 90s to early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, and I will say that at all of these concert series, typically the performers do like a 2 to 4 day stint there, and they usually do 2 performances per day.
Yeah.
So it's usually like a 5:30-ish and like an 8:30-ish or an 8 o'clock, something like that, depending on park close hours and all that kind of thing. So, but people for some of these will line up like at park open, because they really want to see, and they'll just camp out in line and wait. And we'll talk a little bit about a way to not have to do that later. But it gets very, very busy and very, very popular very quickly.
Yeah, it's like if anybody here understands what these words are going to mean, it's like everyone waiting at main stage barricade for the headliner at Warped Tour. Like that's what this vibe is.
R.I.P. Warped Tour.
Rest in peace.
Yes, it's coming back.
It is. But not in cities.
You know, yeah.
How dare they?
I know in Washington or Florida for it.
Oh no, so real.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yes. But again, back to the topic. So here, the scavenger hunt, like we talked about earlier, is Remy's Hide and Squeak, which I love a good pun. I think this might be the best pun out of all of them. I don't know. I just have, maybe it's because I love ratatouille. I have such a soft spot for it. Yeah, so it is different Remy statues hiding throughout the park, doing different culinary things. He might be sniffing a cheese or maybe cutting a vegetable or something like that. So
Sniffing a cheese.
I had, God forbid I word something in a normal manner. He's just hanging out. He's just being a little guy. But yeah, so same idea as the other ones. This is the sticker sheet one. So you walk around, you find him in the different pavilions, and you put the corresponding sticker to the food that he is doing something with.
Yeah, and
They also
like a food related
Oh, yes.
thing, like a little bowl or a cup, something.
Yeah. They also have one of my favorite scavenger hunts, because I just love all the scavenger hunts, is the Halloween one that they do. So this is technically
Yes.
during Food and Wine, but it's not like Food and Wine themed, because it takes place just in the month of October, and it is all of the character, like little jack-o'-lantern pumpkins that are hidden all over the park, and it's super fun to do too. And they typically give a little character jack-o'-lantern as the prize, which is also very fun.
Yes, which we said it before, but really to reiterate, I think Food and Wine is the longest festival
Yeah.
because it runs for like, it feels like for months and months and months.
Yeah.
But it's usually like, it's like 3 months. It's the end of August all the way through usually the first or second week of November. It's a very, very long
Yeah.
festival. So there are, like you said, sub activities that may occur that are like occurring at the same time, but may not be directly related. Yeah, to part of the festival.
Yes, and I think, was it this last year that they did wait to start Food and Wine until a little bit later from what they had done? Because I think not 2024, but 2023, it started like mid-July.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was like- That's way
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think it was 22 they started mid-July because I think that
Yeah.
they were trying to like have a larger draw and a
Yeah.
longer season because we were really just like starting the upswing from post-COVID, you know?
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and so I think that they were really trying to like have
Extend the festival as
Exactly.
much as they could.
exactly like really trying to have more of a draw. But they had, I think it was last year, I think it was 20 or 2 years ago, 23, that they had started it concurrently with Mickey's Not So Scary. And so I wonder if that's what we're gonna see going forward.
I don't know.
You know, so that way as a draw maybe for people to either extend their vacation or
Right.
you know, just to have the additional activities because traditionally it would be like the very last week, like really Labor Day weekend is when it would start. But it seems now that they are pushing it up somewhere between that midpoint between, you know, July 1st starting it at, like just to have Food and Wine running in the background all year
Right.
and the Labor Day weekend. So I'd be interested to see if it ends up starting the same week or weekend as Mickey's
Yeah.
Not So Scary.
Well, and I know that Flower and Garden this year is ending like really early in June, which has not always been the case again. But I think, you know, to an extent, I'm glad that they're kind of shifting and adjusting and figuring that out because it really truly is a disservice to some of the amazing restaurants that are at Epcot year round to have all these other food options also there year round, what it feels like, right? So I think it's nice when they can give the park a break. You know, because there is usually about a 2-week break in between festivals minimum. But like when you get something like between Flower and Garden and Food and Wine, now we have more of an extended period. But not only that that's when Disney has kind of historically started running some of their really big discounts for their resorts. Because although people view summer as vacation time, the summer months are actually not the busiest season at Disney World anymore. It used to be that way. But I think in the last 4 years, that has really shifted post pandemic because people are just taking vacations and not waiting until summer when kids are out of school. They're just taking them and going.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really shifting to be more busy in other times of the year. So I think that was very strategic on Disney's part because they said, okay, we're going to pause these festivals. We're going to run all these big promotions to get people to the parks anyway. We don't need to continue the festivals
Right.
while we're doing this.
Right. So festivals don't need to be the draw.
Right.
They can make other concessions that will get people in the door and enjoy like standard Epcot or standard parks, right? There doesn't need to be an event occurring to draw people in.
Yeah.
Right. And it gives the parks a little bit more downtime before the craziness of not so scary season. Really is when it really starts to get crazy again, is like Labor Day all the way through the end of the year. Basically.
Because we have food and wine, and then our next festival. Ooh, perfect segue.
Love it.
Oh no, you're right. I forgot. Oh, my buddy, one thing for food and wine. Just the little the little passport stamp is called Emile's Fromage Montage, which is again great name for things. And that is, as you may guess, there's different like cheese themed foods around the festival booths at Food and Wine for you to get like the little passport stamps for. And historically, this has actually been the same prize for a couple years now. Because things are pretty consistent with Food and Wine, where you might see things change between other festivals, right? The different, say, figment things that you can paint or whatever. Things are very consistent with Food and Wine, right? It's almost always the same booths. They might add, a couple here or there. They might swap the lesser, populated booths. But largely there are the same booths with the same menu. And this is the same prize that you'll get. It's usually like a spoiler, skip ahead if you don't want to know. But it's usually like a mini cheesecake that you can get because it's all been cheese themed food. So
Yes. Cheese is good. I like that one.
yeah, it's a good one.
Yes. Okay, now shall we talk
to-
about Festival of the Holidays? Another short festival.
Yeah,
at
another very short festival that runs from like end of November, like Thanksgiving time through the end of the year. So this is almost like Epcot's answer to like Jollywood Nights or Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. This is what Epcot does at the holiday season. So everything is decorated for the holidays. And there's different things like you can meet Santa. The different pavilions talk about different like where you can learn about different holiday traditions and things like that in the different countries. So again, with that educational kind of component that Epcot is always known for. Communicore Hall has a gingerbread spaceship Earth, which is super cool. So just a lot of really fun holiday themed things to explore.
I will mention that this one, while it is their response to Jollywood and Very Merry, again, this is included in your park admission. So it's not an extra
those,
ticket,
no.
unlike those. This is included, which is really, really awesome. And I think the storytellers around World Showcase are something that a lot of people don't realize are happening during this time of year, which is what Jess was mentioning with the different traditions and songs and stories being told around World Showcase. Every country has their own, whatever their version of Saint Nick, Santa Claus, whatever they may refer to that person or being as. And they tell their story from their heritage and their country. And I just think that's so cool.
So the big I guess like entertainment draw here is the candlelight processional. So celebrity guests narrate a retelling of the story of Christmas, accompanied by a 50-piece orchestra. So some of the narrators over the years have been Neil Patrick Harris. I feel like he's been like one of the most, like he does it every year.
Yeah.
Like,
And he's always the one closest to Christmas. He's always like in the December 20th range because he's always the one closest to Christmas, at least the past like 3 years in a row.
He is the mascot.
He is.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I actually, until embarrassingly recently, did not realize anybody did it but Neil Patrick Harris, because he is so heavily associated with it that I thought like he did it, and occasionally there'd be like a guest speaker when he like just didn't feel up to it, right? Like we'd occasionally get like John Stamos or something to like pop in there when he had to go film something else, right? Like I actually thought it was always Neil Patrick Harris. Like I truly did think it was just like his thing. And then
No, there's like 15 or 20 of them that come, and again they do like they do 2 or 3 nights and then we move on to the next person.
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg, Josh Gad, Jodie Benson. I think this past year, Catherine Hahn did it for a couple of days. So they're always getting, big names within Disney to, come in and host the candle processional. So that is the big kind of entertainment draw instead of the concert series. That's what they have. There is a concert series though too. They have Joyful, which is joyful celebration of the season. So it celebrates Christmas and Kwanzaa. There's gospel music and R&B and different holiday songs. So that is another kind of entertainment draw for the Festival of the Holidays. The two scavenger hunts for Festival of the Holidays are the Olaf's Holiday Tradition Expedition.
So many words.
It is so many words. Some of these are like tongue twisters.
Right.
I don't know how you say them.
The rhymes are rhyming for
The
real.
rhymes are
The rhymes
Stevie
be rhyming.
Yep. So this one is Olaf in different like holiday traditions, as it sounds. So you're searching for him throughout the park in the different countries. And then there is also the cookie stroll, which is like the passport stamp activity. So you get different cookies, and then at the end there is a prize. I think this past year's was a gingerbread cookie kit was the prize from the cookie stroll. So you get something super cool like that from the cookie stroll.
Yeah, we like the Olaf one because it goes along with, if you've seen the Frozen Christmas special where Olaf is helping Anna and Elsa find traditions, like that's where it's pulled from. And my daughter is a big Frozen fan, so like
Rightly so.
getting
Yeah.
right. So like getting to see that then like in the parks is a really cool connection. I'm very glad that they
that's where
did that.
it was pulled from because we've never experienced it. So that's really
You
really
gotta
cool.
watch it. It's on Disney Plus.
So I've
It's
seen Olaf's Frozen Adventure.
yeah,
But we have not seen the Olaf's
the scavenger.
Holiday Tradition Expedition. We haven't been to Festival of the Holidays.
yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, pick a bunch of words out of a hat. Roll.
Yeah, but it's very cute because a lot of it like is familiar to what you would think of from seeing it on Disney Plus, which I like that connection from the movie to the parks is fun.
Absolutely.
That feels in line with what a lot of the scavenger hunts around World Showcase used to be before it was festivals 24/7. Like there was a Kim Possible scavenger hunt years ago.
Yeah.
There was a DuckTales one, I think was the one that was just before this. There was a Perry the Platypus one for a number of years. So like the connection between like a piece of media, like directly where it's, the very clear direct tie feels very like you see throughout these festivals glimmers of like old Epcot,
Right.
like with the
Yes.
educational part of Flow Grow and, like with this where it's the tie into a
Right.
piece of media for the World Showcase.
Yeah, and they still do the DuckTales one. It's just no longer, you don't like, so previously with these, you used to like physically get like a little flip phone or like a little like
Yes.
old school smart touchscreen phone. But now it's all in the Play Disney app. So the DuckTales one does still exist, and it has a lot of the same effects that you found in the Perry the Platypus and the Kim Possible ones, which were the two original ones. So it's still there. It's just a little different than what it was previously.
Modified.
But some of the effects are still there, and they're really, really cool. So
So
that
still
is
worth it.
yes, a year-round fun little scavenger hunt type thing that you could do.
And then something that is very different for Festival of the Holidays is that one of the rides in Epcot gets a holiday overlay. So Living with the Land gets a little holiday makeover, and so does the Behind the Scenes tour, which is kind of the special look where you can kind of walk through behind the scenes of Living with the Land and kind of see all the different gardening and planting and all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, they just like take you behind the
It's
scenes
kind of all the different areas.
Yeah, because Living with the Land, if anybody doesn't know, first off, best ride in all of Epcot. I say that with like genuine.
Arrows would beg to differ.
Okay, 3 cabs, that's fair. With like genuine
I'm with you,
sincerity, I love Living with the Land. That feels like an OG Epcot ride, right? It's educational. It's interesting if you're a super nerd like me. It's air conditioning if you're not. But the behind the scenes tour is a really great look at how Epcot and Disney at large runs this massive greenhouse and also their sustainability efforts and things like that. So it's a pretty cool tour. I think it's like, is it like $20, 15 to 20?
It's fairly inexpensive.
Yeah. So it's a tour that, in my opinion, is pretty worth it. Especially if you're looking for something different to do, maybe in the downtime between festivals.
There you go.
Look at that. It all wraps back together.
Yeah, and I think Glimmering Greenhouses is technically the overlay name for the Living with the Land overlay. It is absolutely stunning. The amount of work and the amount of Christmas lights that they put inside of there is unbelievable. But if you're going to do it, I highly suggest waiting to do it until it's dark outside because it will make a difference. It's pretty during the day too, don't get me wrong, but doing it at night is just even that much better. But it will get a very long line at night. So like upwards of like 45 minutes to an hour, which is unheard of for normal living with the land. So just be prepared for that. Plan that into, maybe if you're using lightning lanes for the day, grab, ride it standby during the day and grab one for the evening to ride it when it gets dark out, because the line gets extremely long for that one.
Which is fair, and it's
Right.
treatment that living with the land deserves. They're down.
Yes, it's so pretty. So definitely if you were attending during the holiday season, make sure that's on your list for Epcot. Okay. So I think that kind of gives you a brief, sort of not brief, rundown of all of the
Quote unquote brief.
of all of the festivals that Epcot has to offer. So now that we've heard about that, now what do we do? Help.
So if we're going stepwise, right? You picked your festival.
Yes. All right. So you picked your festival. So really like planning in advance is the way to go, right? Because all the things start to get announced leading up to the festival. So you can see what's going to be there, who's going to be there, all of those things. So really kind of setting in stone all the things that you want to do, but making sure that you do still have some flexibility in your plans. There might be something that comes up that maybe you missed it in your planning and you realize there's something that you really want to try to do. So, definitely be prepared, but also be okay making adjustments, especially because it is Disney and you just never know what's going to happen in your day at Disney.
So true. There could be snow. Like this week, there was almost snow at Disney.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Which is crazy. So yeah, definitely always be prepared to have to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah. So within that planning, we have a couple of steps broken out to help, guide you through the planning process, right? First and foremost, anytime it comes to Disney, your first stop generally should be Disney's own websites, right? That is the source of truth. You can hear and see rumors all over the internet, but if it did not come from Disney, do not believe it, right?
So true. So true.
So the first stop always of Disney planning is going to be a Disney official channel. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's their social media, maybe it's all of the above, but it has to be a Disney site. So that's where you can get info on like booths and announced menus and the entertainment offerings, right? Like you may hear rumored that an entertainment act is going to be there, maybe a band or an artist or something like that. But until you see it confirmed by Disney, it ain't real. Until it's on that blog, it's not real.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I will mention with that is, especially if you're looking for specifics on the food, start with the menus on Disney's site, but Disney Food Blog is a really great resource to find photos of the food. If it's something that is a repeat item from years past, that is my go-to. I always go there first after I double check the menus on Disney's site itself. That's where I usually go after that, specifically for the food options.
100%. I think they give pricing information usually on Disney Food Blog too, which Disney's website does not always have.
Yeah.
So that is helpful too. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think, paying attention to the price of the things that you're looking to buy.
Unfortunately, prices are reality.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But continuing just really quick before we move on to the next bits of advice, I said it earlier, but I really want to reinforce it here that as you're looking through those Disney sites and the offerings, don't discount something just because it's not your usual area or your usual thing, right? Really explore. Take your time. There's going to be a lot of information, especially when the festival first comes out. There's always a lot of hubbub and a lot of postings and a lot of everything. But like, really just take your time. Scroll through the site, scroll through the photos, look at the announcements, check a couple different social media channels too, because sometimes on Instagram, they may have one set of photos and the website might have the full set of photos, but Instagram's 5 photos may be easier for you to personally digest, right? So it is always good as you're checking out these official channels. Don't get overwhelmed. Just take it piece by piece and consider things that maybe you hadn't looked into before as you're reviewing what Disney's posting.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Another thing to help with planning is watching different influencers, whether that's on TikTok, YouTube, checking out Instagram, seeing their reviews of different things. Disney will post clam shots of everything and really kind of, show you the best side of everything, but usually the influencers will kind of be able to give more of the like in the moment, I walked at this day, here's how the food was kind of views of things. But also don't take what they're saying as gospel either, right? Maybe it's just not to their taste. Maybe it's something that looks really good and sounds really good to you and they didn't like it so much, but don't necessarily let that dissuade you. But it can sometimes be a good gauge of, is this item really worth purchasing when I'm on my trip, or is it, something that I should maybe pass up on?
Yes, and beware of day one hype. Because oftentimes we've all seen it, day one or even day 2 or 3 food will look drastically different and taste different than day 30 food.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. Don't let it completely dissuade you, like we just said. Like, if you want to try it, go try it. But just beware that it may be slightly different than what you are anticipating when you're going to the booth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where influencers can come in handy too, because they might be going throughout the festival and they can kind of say, okay, I got this day one, here's how it was. Now I'm 2 months in and here's how we're doing at this point. So,
Right.
yeah. Another thing is watching just for updates on content from the festival. So, things like from Disney or from influencers, if there's any menu changes or things like that that are going on. And also some things aren't running for the entirety of the festival sometimes. So if there's, checking the website, checking the app, making sure if it's something that you really want to do, that it will be there on your trip.
There's nothing worse than getting your hopes up for something and finding out, not that this has happened to me personally, and finding out that it is not available the time that you're going on your trip. So those dates are very, very important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and that's something a little bit newer that Disney has started doing, where they'll have some booths that maybe only run the second half of the festival or the first half of the festival. They have a few booths that will have like complete menu changes like halfway through the festival. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're looking. That is all usually very clearly noted on the Disney website, which is actually helpful. One helpful thing that they do, that they usually will have the dates on there for those booths and those menu changes.
Yeah. So onto all right, so we have our booths visualized, right? We have what we're thinking that we're gonna do. And the next most important thing is to set your budget. Unfortunately, money is a reality. Boo, piss, I know. Unfortunately, money is a reality. So it is really important for you to have an idea of what you are willing to generally spend, not only overall, but on an individual dish, right? There's some of these dishes, especially when it actually, and I shouldn't just say dishes, right? I'm thinking of Food and Wine because that's really like the festival that we have attended most, but it doesn't have to just be for, for the food itself. It could be also for merchandise. And if you're going when there's something special like Festival of the Arts, you probably are going to, outside your food and your merchandise, you're going to want to pick up some art, right? Like that is the driving force of that particular festival. So, given our Comic-Con history, art pickups, totally separate budget.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, it's really important as you're going into this to understand what your tolerance for spending on an individual item is, and also overall what you are willing to spend throughout the whole festival. In the same vein as we were mentioning before with like the updates and day 1 food does not look like day 30 food, maybe just if there's something you're really excited to try, like maybe just keep an eye on how that looks like it's being updated through the festival and see if the portion size and the prices are lining up with what your personal budget may be.
Yeah, there have totally been things we've passed up on because we see what it is and we're like, oh, they're charging like $10 for that. I'm not paying side, But some things are really worth it. Like some of the menu items, like we always get in France, the beef bourguignon, that is like a really like nice dish. It's really good quality, so it's really worth, in our opinion, the money that we spend on it. But there are some things that just might not be worth it to you. So.
Yeah, and the pictures can be deceiving. Sometimes when you get it on the plate, you're like, "Oh, that looked way bigger in the picture." Yeah,
It's
so
also-
do a little drive by as you're looking to see.
It's not only do a drive-by, but maybe scope out what everybody around you is also trying. Listen, don't be a full creep, but maybe it's okay to eavesdrop a little bit, to understand what people are and aren't happy about. Because I've totally done that where like I was dead set on a food or I was dead set on getting a drink. And then I heard people talking about it and somebody really hated it. And I was like, oh man, like I don't want to go spend $15 on this drink if it's going to be nasty. And like hearing them describe and say like, oh, I'm thinking of one specific thing where they were like, oh, this is way more cherry flavored than I thought it would be. And I'm like, oh no, that's not for me.
Not it.
Yes, that's not it.
Cross that off the list.
I'm good. No, thanks. So don't be creepy about it, but maybe gathering some intel as you're walking around an area, maybe you'll change your mind on something that you did want and you're not going to get it anymore, or maybe you'll find something that you didn't even know was really available at that booth because maybe something changed or you just like kind of wrote it off mentally and never went back to it.
Yeah, we've done that before too with our budgets where we kind of make the list and then it's like, okay, process of elimination. Like we make our full list of everything. Like in a perfect world, if we had an unlimited budget, this is everything we'd want to try. And then it's like, okay, now we got to go. Now we got to go through round 1 of edits here. And then, a couple days later, okay, round 2 of edits here until we narrow down to exactly what like our tops are. And then we always have those secondary options. So that way, if we get into the situation where something's like, oh no, that's not what I thought it was going to be, or that's too small, or I don't want to pay that. But it's like, okay, I have a backup plan. So I'm not like frantically scrambling through menus trying to figure out what I want to have.
Yes, we have something similar mentioned later, but that's really I think at the core of some of the advice that we really abide by. Have put your blue sky list together and then break that down into the must have or the must do and then the nice to have or nice to do.
Yep, exactly. And that's huge with our budget for us because we budget down to the dollar sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, there's no sense in hiding it, right? Disney trips are expensive.
Right.
And these extras on top of it can get very expensive very quickly. And it's just the nature of, enjoying these parks and enjoying their offerings. They're expensive. It just is what it is. And so being realistic about what you can and will spend well ahead of time, I have found really makes the festival more enjoyable, right? That way halfway through you aren't like, oh my God, I can't believe that I bought everything in the front half of World Showcase and I didn't even get to the back half, right? Because it's totally happened to us when we're like, you just get so overwhelmed and excited. You just want to try everything. But I think this planning ahead and having the budget, at least a loose, even if you're very strict like us, having a very strict budget works. But if you're not like that, just having like a loose, vague idea is really important and will help you enjoy the festival as much as possible.
Yeah. I agree.
So we were talking before about ways that you can avoid having to wait in very long lines to get into some of these concerts that are hosted. So there are typically like dining packages that come with like a premium viewing area for some of these concert events. So the different table service locations throughout Epcot will have dining packages where you have your meal and then you also get access to seating for the concert. So it's a great way to not have to worry about having to wait in a long line, not being able to get into the pavilion, not getting a good seat. That you have this guaranteed area that you can view the concert from, even if it's something like Yellow Card where people are lining up for like a million hours as soon as World Showcase opens.
If you don't want to relive your glory days of having to elbow somebody to get barricade, you can just pay the money.
Right. Great way to avoid that. And so especially if you know that it's like a band or that you really want to see, or like the Candlelit Processional, somebody that you really want to see narrate it, it's a good way to, guarantee your spot for that.
Yeah.
And it's also a good, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jackie.
I was just gonna say some of them are worth it and some of them are not. So take a look and see, because you're going to pay a premium for it, right? There's going to be an upcharge for your meal. You're not going to pay the prices that you see on the menu. It's going to be a set price that really varies a lot depending on where you're eating. So places like Regal Eagle quick service, and there's usually 1 or 2 other quick services that will also offer these. Those are going to be your best, like, budget conscious way to do this, because they're going to be the least expensive, because you're going to have to pay per person that premium rate to guarantee you those seats. So it depends on who it is. If it's someone like Neil Patrick Harris and the parks are busy and crazy because it's Christmas time, like, I would suggest you do it if it's within your budget. But if it's someone where you're like, no, I don't, there's someone that I like, but maybe they're not super popular to, the general public. And I'm just going to go line up and wait about an hour. I don't mind, then that's a different story. So it really just depends on the situation, and your budget and how many people and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
it does get very expensive very quickly the more people that you're adding. So for somebody like us, where it's just us two, it's probably much more doable than somebody going with a whole family or the extended family. And
Yeah, and some of those it's just not worth it for kids, right?
Yeah.
Like unless you know for sure they are going to sit through something like Candlelight Processional, which is an amazing, beautiful event, but it's not super friendly for kids, I'd say 6 and under, maybe even a little bit older than that if they can't or aren't willing to sit through an orchestra and a choir and a narrator telling the story, so some of it may be worth it, some of it may be not worth it. Some of it may just be like, yep, we want to catch a couple, because there is some standing room kind of at the back of the seating area of that, the like little amphitheater that they have it in. So some of it may just be worth like, yep, we're gonna walk by and maybe stop off to the side and listen for a little bit and then continue on our way.
And we've totally done that. And
Absolutely. Allie, that's suggested to just sit at the tables in America. You can definitely see the stage, but you're not necessarily in the crowd, or even like any of the pavilions that kind of border America. You can usually hear what's going on pretty well. So if you're not set on, I need to go in and see, that's a great way to, also enjoy the entertainment without actually being right in there.
Or you can stand across the way at Canada because for some reason you have a crystal clear. I'm so serious. If you stand right across at Canada, you have like a crystal clear sound sight. I don't know what I was trying to say. Sound listening. You can hear it perfectly. That's the words I was trying to get at. My brain shut down midway through. Yeah, sound travels is wild.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. And again, if it's someone that you're like, this is my favorite band, this is my favorite person, this is my favorite actor and actress, or they're narrating, like especially if you're already planning to do a table service restaurant in Epcot anyway, just do the dining package.
Yeah.
Find the extra $20, $30 and do the dining package to give yourself that experience for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But like you were saying, it just depends on, is this something that was already going to fit into your existing plans and your existing budget? And it's just like a couple extra dollars that like maybe I can just skip a souvenir or something.
Yeah. Right.
Or are you going out of your way to spend the extra 100, 200, 300, however much it's going to be for your party size?
Yeah. And like I said, those prices are, they're not going to be on your typical spot in your app where you're going to look at the menus for those table service restaurants. You're going to have to go through the festival information. Typically, the website is the best place to find those. And they'll lay it out exactly for each restaurant how much the child price is and how much the adult price is for every option that they have. A lot of those reservations go fast. There are a few of the quick service. Obviously, the quick service ones don't take reservations. So if you're going to do something like Regal Eagle, you kind of have to rope drop Regal Eagle, which sounds absurd.
It
But
sounds
Jack will do it.
perfectly reasonable to rope drop a Muppets themed restaurant
Okay,
with barbecue.
but Regal Eagle also doesn't open until like 11 usually. So about 10:30 they'll come out and take names, and they only have so many slots available. So definitely do your research if you're trying to go the quick service route. The table service route is going to be a lot more clear cut. Either you have a reservation
Or you don't.
under that dining package or you don't. That's the other thing that I'll mention is make sure you reserve it. It's the same for like if you're doing a Phantasmic package or something like that, reserve it under that name of that event. Because if you just say you want to go to Spice Road Table and you're like, oh, I know they're on that list, and you just make a reservation outside of the Candlelight Processional, for an example, it's not going to be included with your reservation. So make sure you go through the Candlelight Processional option on your reservations. If you're not sure about it, if you have a travel agent, ask your TA. If you're not sure about it, find someone who knows. Send me a message.
I was
will.
going to say, ask Jackie.
I have a question. Is the seating, if you do the quick service, different than if you do a table service restaurant? Like, do you get a different viewing area?
Not as far as I know, but I could be wrong because I don't have personal experience doing it.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, they're all in the same like sectioned off area.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suspect no. I can see why you'd think that because of like a quote unquote tiered system. But I think that is. I don't want to. This is not like a knock at Disney, but that's like way too much effort, right? Like it's just easier, like from the logistics point of view, right? Because they can either say, "Oh, you have this specific tier. I have to shoot you in this specific place," and that's like a drain on their resources, or they can just say, "You have it or you don't," you know. So
And I think they give you a wristband. So I would think it's just you have a wristband, you get to go here. You don't have a wristband, you're back in those sections kind of deal.
Get back there, peasant.
Literally. So yes, all of that to say, it's a great option if it works out in your plans and your budget. It's also not necessary depending on your situation.
Agree. Okay. All right. So moving on to our next chunk of advice here. We talked about it, so I'm not going to belabor it. Just really, this is specifically for Festival of the Arts. If you know there's an artist that you like that's going, make sure you check out their social media. Make sure that your dates align if you are really desperate to see them and get something from them. And even if you can't go, just throwing this out there, support artists on social media. Share something, like something. If you can pick up a print, go for it. We are all about supporting small businesses and especially artists. It's real hard out there, folks. So if you can do it, support the artists.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then another thing we kind of touched on already, Jackie kind of mentioned, but kind of writing out somewhere what are your like must do things and then the things that you would like to do to prioritize. And then that way, if things change throughout the day, you can pull something, up from your would be nice to do list into your must do, and then, kind of swap it out if you decide to not do something. But then that way, you have a planned.
I have found that's also super helpful with festival foods for kids, because depending on the festival, depending on the offerings, not all of that is super kid friendly. There's a lot more there's a lot more seasoning and spices and exploratory options at these festival booths. That's the purpose, right? But your kiddo may or may not be okay with that. So keep that in mind. I feel like Flower and Garden has some of the most kid-friendly options because they tend to be kind of lighter options. They don't go as hard on the spices and things like that for that particular festival. Some do, you know what I mean? But it's just a different kind of palette. Food and wine can be a little tricky to find stuff that my kids will eat. So having that list for your kids is super helpful, especially if like you're planning to snack your way around. You want to make sure that they have enough. We've often had to like stop and grab a pretzel in Germany or something like that because we know that our kids are going to need more than what they will like from the festival booths.
Yeah, that's very fair. And the portion sizes are, of course, smaller because they're samplings, right? They want to make sure that you buy as much food and wine as possible around the world. That's the whole thing here. So because they are the smaller portions, like you said, if you have an adult that's a more picky eater, or if you have a kiddo that maybe is not, no shame, no judgment. That's all right. Completely fine. I will eat anything that you put in front of me. I'll try anything once. I'm like a very not picky eater. So like you have me at one end of the spectrum, and then you have you on the other end.
Right.
So just keep in mind, we didn't really touch on it, but the portion sizes are smaller. So no shame if you got to stop off for like a quick snack or something. Absolutely.
Right. But yes, I think having that list is so important. And that's what my husband and I do. We literally will put it in our phones, and he'll have his list and I'll have my list, and then we'll have the kid list. So that way, and we'll talk about this here in just a moment about planning your day, but like that helps us do that, right? So we see what booths we cross over with, like, oh, we both want to go to this booth. Cool. That's helpful. So those lists are super important.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect segue into the next point, which is, all right, you have everything down. You have your list down. You have your booths. You have your activities down, right? If you know that you want to go do the paint by numbers figment, if you know that there's an artist that you want to see, you want to go see a concert, whatever it may be, you now have to plan your route. And again, I'm not going to weigh in on the right versus left. I don't need that smoke, okay? I'm not trying to catch a stray over here, all right? But it is important, especially because festival days, if you're like us, they're long days. We go from start to finish, right? We are really maximizing that festival day because the way that we are able to go is that we cram everything in, right? Like we can't go for very long trips because of the way that our work schedules are and also budgetary reasons, right? So like when we are at the parks, we are at the parks. Like we are not Like, I'll take a nap on Guardians. Like, I don't care. Like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. I've almost done it before. Truly.
I have concerns over that, but we'll talk
fine.
about that later.
This is a different conversation. But so it's really important for you to not be zigzagging back and forth across World Showcase and then up to the land and then back down to France and that right. You
We
really
made that mistake before.
God, it is awful. I'm trying to save you. Don't do it.
Don't do what we did.
It was so much easier like 5 years ago to do stuff like that. But again, as established, I'm 90, so it's just not realistic, and it's far more enjoyable because okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I must do, and anything else on top is just great.
Right.
So those. Oh, go ahead.
If you're not familiar with the setup of World Showcase, it literally is around a lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not easy access. You literally have to go one way or the other, and you kind of just got to keep on going the whole way around.
You gotta commit, and
it takes a long time.
it does. It is a lot of steps. It is big. It is deceptively big, I will say.
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing is, in theory, there are boats that run across like 3 points in the lake, but they really don't run them all the time.
They're not great.
No, they're not extremely reliable. So like it truly, this is the biggest tip, not just for festival time, but for Epcot in general. Have a sense of what you want to do and have that plan before you even step foot into that park. Now, you don't have to stick with it. This is where what we said earlier, the flexibility comes in. But so you're not running around like a crazy person doing 50,000 steps, jogging back and forth in World Showcase.
Yeah.
You really have to have a plan and you have to commit to it.
Right. Well, and I'll put my Kate hat on here for a minute. It's because Epcot is 2 parks pushed together, right? So they had the World Showcase part and they had the Future World part, and they literally just went, oh, we'll just shove them together. There was supposed to be a monorail entrance point in the middle of the park. Well, that didn't happen, which makes it significantly larger for you to navigate around. So when you get to World Showcase, you have to understand that getting around World Showcase, if you're lucky, 2 hours.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, closer to 4 or 5 hours just for World Showcase. That doesn't even count anything that is in the front of the park.
Especially if you are taking your time and enjoying the park and exploring the pavilions, which I really, really encourage everybody to do.
Right.
Every trip that we go to Epcot, we try to do something that we haven't done before. So like last trip, we did Canada Far and Wide. We had never done it before. And it was really cute. It was fun. And who doesn't love Eugene Levy?
Right. I mean, it's so good. That song is so great.
It's so fun.
Okay, sorry.
It slaps, as the kids say.
This is just like the musical episode. I keep singing tonight. So sorry.
Fine. But yeah, so I encourage you, as you are planning this, plan into your day, not just the festival activities, because yes, of course, the festival is the big draw, but also like time to enjoy the different pavilions and talking to cast members and finding out about the pavilions, right? Like one time I just happened to talk to somebody in the UK pavilion and I found out that the UK pavilion goes through, the buildings are built to go through the history of building in the UK, right? Like, I didn't put that together. I mean, I'm a vaguely observant person, but I just didn't really think about it, right? So like you really can find out a lot of information by just slowing down as you go through the pavilions, and that should be built into your plan.
Yes. Unless you really don't care, which like is also fine.
Valid,
valid. Also fine, but again, it's still going to take you a while to walk through. Even if you just literally walk a lap, it's still going to take you a while.
Yeah, whether you care about thatched roofs in the UK or not, it's a big place. The World Showcase is gigantic.
Yes, exactly. So, yes. Okay, so what else do we need to consider as we're looking to plan that route through the park?
So planning the route and then also checking out things like the merchandise. So knowing what you want to buy for yourself. Where can I find the merchandise that I want to buy for myself, especially the festival exclusive merchandise.
And if I may interrupt, where that merchandise is sold, because not every merchandise booth has all of the merch. So important thing to note as you're planning your route.
Yeah. Usually like festival merch is in a couple of specific places, like port of entry.
International Gate.
Yes, thank you.
That's what
Um,
it's called.
now that we know. So, it's usually those are kind of like the main places to get festival merch, but now that they have, with all the construction, the bigger merch stores, like some of it is sold other places, but those are kind of your main go-tos for the festival merch. And then they also have usually booths kind of throughout the festival as well that sell things. So just kind of keeping that in mind as you're going through, and then also, in your budgeting.
My thought process is you can easily spend, and you've probably heard us hinting at this, an entire Epcot day doing just the festivals, not even doing any of the rides or attractions or anything else. So you really have to see how that's going to fit into your trip schedule when you're planning your route and you're planning what you're going to be doing. Are you putting rides in between some of the festival stuff or not? Do you need to sacrifice time in other parks because Epcot is your priority for this particular trip? All of those things are questions that you have to ask yourself because there is so much to do during these festivals that you really need at least a full day
Mhm.
to do festival stuff. And again, you just have to decide based on your list after you've made it and you're looking at your priority list for the festival and then also looking at your ride priority list for Epcot. How does this all pan out for my plans?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done on trips where we've kind of just dedicated, okay, we're going to do like an afternoon or an evening and just kind of spend that whole time doing just festival stuff. And that's like all we're going to do in Epcot for this trip because there's not really time to do a lot of everything else, depending on your timing, how long you have in the parks and what other parks you're planning to go to. So, yeah, like you might sometimes do I have to sacrifice something else that I might want to do because I want to, do these park things. But that's the other thing, like the rides and all that is always going to be there.
Right.
So if you're there during a festival, really try, take advantage the best you can. Um, if you're able, if this is like your once in a lifetime trip, then that might be a different story. But
Exactly.
if you have other opportunities to visit the parks, maybe take some time to really prioritize the festival stuff versus some of the other things.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've planned ahead. We've scouted out. We've planned the route. Oh, I rhymed. Look at that. So day of when we get to the park, what are some things that we need to think about?
The first thing that I always recommend people do, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of time in the festival, and we already talked about that budget. I know you got that budget. Put your budget on a gift card. That is the easiest way to control the spending
Yes.
because it is so easy. I cannot tell you how many trips I've come back from and been like, oh my God, did I black out? How much food did I eat? That I did. What did I do here? Right? Like it is so easy when you are in the haze of Disney.
The Disney bubble, as
You,
they say.
exactly, the Disney bubble. You lose all sense of reality.
Nope.
Mhm.
And it is so easy for you to just go, well, I can just get this, or
Yeah.
like, oh, $15 isn't that much, So
Mhm.
it's
Especially
it,
if you're tapping that magic band.
it's
And
dangerous.
money's not real on
It's
magic bands.
it's all space credits. None of it's real. So the best way that we have found to avoid this is putting that money that you have dedicated towards whatever your budget is on a gift card.
Mhm.
Now if you want a fun gift card that's also kind of a souvenir, for most festivals, they will have this is like towards like Port of Entry, or any of those that you can like redeem the scavenger hunts at. They will have it's like on a scrunchy type wristband. They will have a themed gift card. So it's easy for you to access. It just lives on your wrist for your time on the festival. And it doubles as like a fun souvenir, right? It is something that you do not have to spend extra money on. You just have to load money that you already had set aside onto it. Yeah.
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 But if you have like a Target Red Card, for example, you can get discounts on Disney gift cards from Target. Places like Sam's and Costco often run gift card deals too. So checking out places like that can be helpful too, because then you can get more for your money.
Yeah, what we have done, all of those things, but what we have also done is so I have a Disney Visa credit card that I've had. And with that, you get 1% back, depending on your card, 1% or more back on every purchase you make on that card. You can redeem it as Disney gift card money. So I will take that, and that was what we will set aside to start our our festival budget. And so we know that amount because it's all rewards money. So it's like, okay, we feel good about using that, you know, 50 or 100 or whatever it may be, depending on our budget and what we're able to do. We're able to use that for those extra festival kind of splurge purchases outside of our budget.
Yeah, we've done that with any gift card or any gift card points, any credit card points that we have. That's usually what we end up doing, right? Like I travel a lot for work. And so like we some of those miles I can or some of those credit card points, I'll just put them into like a general gift card or whatever it may be, and then we can use that towards different, like you said, it's a good addition to your budget or a good place to start that budget.
Yes.
So for the day of, most things are in World Showcase. So just keeping in mind that a lot of the festival specific like food booths and different things are not going to open until 11 a.m. Because that is typically when World Showcase kind of opens up. Things like rides will be available before then, but actual festival offerings will not start until then. So it's a good chance if you're getting to Epcot at Park Open, do some stuff in the front of the park, maybe get some of the rides out of the way. And then when the festival starts opening, then that's when you can kind of dedicate your time to doing those things.
Um, So we talk again. I hate to sound like a broken record because you touched on so many of these things as we've gone through, right? But just as you are enacting your plan, right? Because I know you have a plan, you have the budget, you have the plan. We talked about it. Um, Follow the plan, but leave room for surprises, right? Maybe there's
Mhm.
like on our last trip, we were focused, and then we saw like random adorable character meets that we of characters that we never see, right? We saw Alice, we saw Pooh Bear's back meeting. So like we saw characters that we hadn't seen before. So like we just took the time to like, have the moment.
Yeah.
It's important to have fun as your festival, right? I know we're talking like very serious business here, but like it is
This is
still like
serious business. Epcot is serious business.
first off, yes. We're kidding, but that's very serious, thank you. Um I know it is overwhelming and very serious, and you always want to have like the perfect Disney day, right?
Mhm.
You are putting so much time and effort and money into this, but truly some of the best Disney moments happen when you just sort of let the plan breathe. You have time, you slow down, you explore. Maybe you just sit and people watch. Some of my favorite stories we have gotten from sitting on a bench and people watching because I couldn't walk another step and I needed 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And
For sure.
surely, so I think that that is some of the best advice that I can give when it comes to especially these festivals, because Epcot is gigantic.
Mhm.
Right, take your time and really let the Disney magic occur around you and just observe it for a moment.
Yeah, and World Showcase has so many really great hidden characters.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
You can find so many characters that people don't realize are doing meet and greets in so many of the different World Showcase pavilions,
Absolutely.
So again, like that Pooh Bear one you mentioned, oh, that's my favorite meet and greet, and it's like hidden away back in the back corner of the UK pavilion, and I adore that meet and greet.
Yes, it's very sweet. It's very well themed, right? Like he has his
Mhm.
own little room. It's very cute.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, some of the best things were like we found accidentally. We have
Right.
seen that. I mean, it's now gone viral on social media, but like not to sound super cool or anything, but before it was so popular, we saw Winnie running around on the grass by the Imagination Pavilion
Right.
with his little butterfly net,
Right.
pretending to catch butterflies. Right, like so many things are so wonderful about Disney with these magical little touches, these
Mhm.
surprise meet and greets,
Yeah.
things that you may not ever even consider in your plan. And getting to experience them is fantastic and is truly some of my favorite stories from any trip that we've gone on.
Yeah, and Epcot has 2 known, like, character palooza spots that they like to use for kind of the more rare characters if they're testing some meet and greets or they have maybe some new friends of characters that are around, so they use the alleyway next to Regal Eagle, and then they also use the area near, like, the bridge that goes between the, like, Canada and F was it Canada and France? Yeah,
Yeah,
area.
right by where you're entering for the
Mhm.
Skyliner.
Mhm. Yep, so both of those areas tend to have, like, influxes of characters, and it's random times throughout the day, so you kinda never know when you might run into them, but super fun.
And here is another one that we actually hadn't seen anyone meeting at for a very long time. right by the port of entry, there is like a little covered. It almost, if you're not looking at it, you don't quite know what it is, or if you don't know what what happened there. It's like a little awning, and there was her name is escaping me. The princess from Wish was meeting there. Asha, yes, thank you. Asha was meeting there, and so I've seen this was like pre-pandemic. I saw somebody meeting there all the time, and then it kind of went away, and now it's back, and it was like a huge hit. Everybody you could see all the kids were walking by, and then their heads whipped around once they saw Asha, and like I saw one kid like fully sit on the ground holding his mother's hand and went Asha. It was so cute.
That overhang is where Duffy Bear used to meet.
Sad Duffy noises.
But yes, I have also seen characters there before too. So
we are robbed. Listen, not to go on a weird tangent here, not to like bring up like Muppets level tangent, but like we are robbed in the American parks of Duffy. I'm going to make that an episode. Is just go through the lure of
history
Duffy.
of Duffy.
I'm here for that. Yes, please.
We deserve Duffy.
We do. We do. It's so true. It's so true. But yes, so all of that to be said, let's reel it back in because we have been talking for a long time and we need to.
Oh my goodness.
We need to end this up here and keep on moving.
We're coming to the end here, folks.
Yes. So something that I like to do as I'm walking around, if I've got the time, is to use those shows and some of the shops in World Showcase as a really great way to either use it as a break point or to get out of the elements, depending on when you're there and what the weather may be doing, if it's raining, if it's a million degrees outside.
Or snowing.
Yeah, you never know, right? So using the shows and the shops. Now, do keep in mind several of the shows are standing room shows throughout World Showcase. So don't always think that the show means you're going to get a seat, because oftentimes that's not the case. But it is still a really great way to be inside if that's something that you need.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Another thing is that the booths serve all the way through up until the park close / fireworks. So if you're doing, the festival food booths and you want to grab a quick snack before watching Luminous, that is a good way to end your hot day.
Yeah, especially if you're like, oh, I have like 3 more things left on my list. Okay, just go grab all 3 and then park it and find your spot for Luminous, right? And you can enjoy your snacks while you wait. It's perfect.
Exactly.
It's excellent.
Yes.
Okay, I think that covers all of our advice. I think we've covered it. I think this is how you guys are going to conquer the festivals. I think you can crush it.
I believe in our lovely listeners. I think they're pros at this point because we've
Agreed.
talked about festivals before, but I love that this was just like a one-shop stop. Here's your rundown. Here's how you tackle the festivals. So I think that's super helpful. That all being said, I think we have to talk about what our favorite festivals are before we wrap this episode, because
Absolutely.
the people need to know.
Everyone wants to know my opinion personally.
Yes, just Duck's opinion.
No, sorry, guys. I know everyone's here for me. I get it. You're here as supporting characters. I'm the main character. This is how it goes.
It's the truth. It's the truth. So, Duck, what is your favorite Epcot festival?
So we must confess, though we are acting as though we are experts on every festival, the way that our schedules work out, we have only experienced food and wine. So I think, of course, out of actual festivals, food and wine, it's got the most stuff in general that we collectively together would enjoy. However, I think spiritually, Flower and Garden would be my favorite. I actually really love like nature and gardening. Gardening, other than Pokemon cards, which not sure newer listeners may not know. Pokemon cards are like truly my life. But outside of that, I really enjoy like being outside in general, and I always have a very large garden that takes over our back patio and also my mother's back patio. So like I love gardening. I love all of it. So truly Flower and Garden like speaks to me, and also like I'm really passionate about like conservation and things like that. And education, like I'm a forever nerd that will always be learning things, and I really feel that like Flower and Garden captures the essence of like we need to love and appreciate Earth, and it is so beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, let's go Flower and Garden. That's the vibe. That's the vibe right there. I want to plant my tomatoes and love the earth. Let's go.
I love this. Petition to get Duck to come to Flower and Garden this year with me.
God, we're trying.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay.
It's so
So,
pretty for an expensive.
yeah, that's a thing that you need to do. So, that's okay. Okay, Jess, what is your favorite Epcot festival?
Yeah. So again, only experienced Food and Wine, but I like life goal, and it like stinks that it is at the time of year that it is, right in January, February. But I really want to go to Festival of the Arts because one of my favorite things of going to like Comic-Con and things like that is looking at all of the different art. And some of the artists that we really like from Comic-Con usually do go to Festival of the Arts as well. So it's just a really cool opportunity to shop, unique art and just experience all things artsy. Even like the Broadway shows just are something that I would love. Like just everything about it is like perfect for me. But just January and February are such hard times to travel. Particularly in our lines of work. So we just haven't been able to make it there. But one day we'll have to go.
It's the dream.
Totally valid. I get that. So
We
mine.
need to know you. I would say we need to know yours, Jackie. The people are dying.
The
We
people
know.
need to know. So I have been to Flower and Garden. I have been to Food and Wine. I am with you, Jess, on the fact that like I really want to get to the Festival of the Arts, but that time it's just such a hard time of year to go, and it's so short that it's like, someday I will get there. But as of what I have experienced now, my favorite is Flower and Garden. I think that I love the little hidden things in the topiaries, and I love looking at the topiaries and like going around World Showcase with my kids. I have memories of doing that with them on one of our more recent trips of just being able to go around and find all the fun characters and those types of things. And the food, while I am a very picky eater, the food at Flower and Garden tends to be better for me personally to be able to find things that I like. So that's why I prefer it. I love Christmas and I love the holidays, so I want to eventually also get to the Festival of the Holidays, especially because I've done Jollywood, I've done Very Merry Christmas Party, so like that's next on my list when it comes to Christmas time and the holiday time, but I would have to say that Flower and Garden is my favorite as of now.
Excellent choice. We are all people of taste, I see.
I mean, you really can't go wrong. That's the thing. Like whichever one, we gave you all this probably more information than you wanted for just an overview of Epcot
Ever need.
of the Epcot festivals, but no matter which one you choose, like you really just can't go wrong. There are so many great options for everybody that's visiting these festivals, whether you're going for the merch, you're going for the food, you're going for the experience, you're going for the performances. There's so much to do at all of these festivals that no matter which one you're there during, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's festivals are the thing that when Epcot was really finding its identity, kept Epcot interesting and kept it afloat and kept people really like dedicated to going to Epcot, right? It kind of gave people a reason to.
Yes.
Right.
Now that Epcot is getting some more things, we talked about it with Guardians. There's now the Moana attraction in there. Test Track is going to be refurbed. I'm hoping that some of the things that were promised pre-pandemic may still come to be. You never know. You never know, right? I in my wildest dreams, I can hope. But it's interesting and exciting to see Epcot growing into the park that really is no longer a half-day park, right? People kind of wrote Epcot off for a little bit there, which really hurt my feelings. But I'm really happy that Epcot is growing and these festivals seem to be growing with it, right? Their offerings are constantly changing and they're constantly interesting, and it is like you said, no matter what time of year that you're going, if you go to a festival, you will enjoy it. There's so much to see and do.
Yes. All I'm saying is that if we circle back and end up with a Mary Poppins ride at Epcot, I probably will cry.
Oh, valid. I want cherry tree. I listen, no tea, no shade. I just don't have the connection to Mary Poppins that some people do. But the thought of a full cherry tree lane was incredible.
Oh, I know. So many things we could have had, but it's okay. It's okay.
So keep moving forward.
Exactly. I love that. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our whole spiel when it comes to the festival crash course for Epcot. Thank you guys for hanging with us. I know it was a lot of information to throw at you, but if you need help planning your Epcot festival, you can always reach out to us. You can find all of us on our own social media accounts, but you can mostly find us at the Mom Street account, which is at Mom Street USA on most of the social places. We don't know what's happening with some of these social places going forward, but we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. So find us there. And as always, you can find us on our good friend Kirk at Walrus Carp in his Pocket Fam Discord. We do have our own Mom Street channel over there. All of the links to that are in the bio over here on my side on the Mom Street account. And if you haven't given Duck a follow over on their account, go ahead and do that to support them as well.
Thanks, everybody.
This is their backup account, but that's okay. We can still support there and also
personal account
Yes,
versus
if
my
you-
Pokemon account.
Yes,
As discussed.
if you want to also follow along with Duck's Pokemon account that I'm sure is linked somewhere over on that side, or maybe will be in this near future as it's fine. But thank you guys so much for joining us. And next week for Mom Street will be Stevie's premiere episode. So stay tuned for that here in a few. But for now, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will see you next time on Mom Street USA.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.